This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Doug Smith. It is Tuesday at 2:30, so it is time for our 2:30 podcast, Monday through Thursday. This is the podcast where you will hear the truth about what actually happened in the opioid crisis. And the graphic that's on the screen there in front of you is one from an article I wrote it's almost been 3 years. And this is an article that's been submitted to FDA, CDC, submitted for to be published, although it hasn't been published yet. And this is kind of our main theory, okay, of what happened to people is that they get the genetic damage, they get the DNA methylation, they take the opioids, and every single dose does a little bit of damage. Okay, a little bit of damage, a little bit of damage, a little bit of damage. Okay, until you reach some unknown threshold of damage, and then when you try to stop taking the opioids, you get sick. Okay, and this sickness is because the genetic damage has resulted in an abnormal opioid receptor. The area in the DNA where the genetic damage occurs is called the OPRM1 gene, opioid mu receptor 1, OPRM1. Opioid receptor mu1, OPRM1. And this is the main opioid receptor in the body. And you've got genetic damage on the gene that makes that receptor, and so the receptor is not going to be normal. And if the receptor is structurally normal, it's not going to function normally. And we believe people are losing control over their internal organs, over the autonomic nervous system, the part of the nervous system that controls the internal organs. Okay, you remember the symptoms. You know, your eyes dilate, your eyes water, your nose runs, you're pouring sweat, your heart's pounding, you lose control of your bowels. But then you also, whether you knew it or not, you lost control of your adrenal gland, and that's the one that will kill you. And the symptoms that come from the loss of control of the internal organs are just not symptoms that the human body can withstand. Okay, I've never experienced it, but I've had a number of people say, yeah, you just try it and see how long you last. Okay, and the implication being nobody would be able to withstand it. Nobody could take it. And so because you have this sickness, because you have this autonomic dysfunction, and by the way, I don't like to call it opioid withdrawal. I prefer to call it the signature disease. Because you have the symptoms of the signature disease. Signature disease is a disease that comes from the genetic damage that's unlike any other disease. That's why it's the signature disease. When you have that disease, it means you have that genetic damage. It's signature disease. It's unlike any other disease. People quickly learn that you take an opioid, you get better for a while, and people literally crave the opioid, not because they want to get high, not because they enjoy the opioid, but because the illness, the signature disease, just cannot be, you can't withstand it. And so that leads to pathologic opioid consumption. You're just taking opioid after opioid after opioid, not because you want to, but because you have to not be sick. One of the things about adrenaline toxicity, whether you call it adrenaline, whether you call it catecholamines, in the medical community, we refer to it as catecholamines. You know, the layperson knows it as adrenaline. There are 3 of them: epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. They're made and stored in the adrenal gland, and when needed, they get secreted a little bit. Nobody has any clue when the body secretes more epinephrine than norepinephrine or more dopamine. Nobody has a clue on any of that. But there are 3. But one of the things about epinephrine is it serves a number of purposes. Yeah, it gets your blood going, get your heart rate going. If you just stepped on the rattlesnake, it'll get you out of there fast. Okay, or faster than you would have otherwise. But then epinephrine, it's like it imprints the brain and says, no, don't ever do that again. Okay, don't ever step on the yellow jacket nest again. Don't ever stick the fork in the electrical outlet again. Okay, how many kids stick the butter knife in the electrical outlet one time but never again? Okay, that's seems to be part of the role of epinephrine. One of the amazing studies comes from the world of trauma. My background was emergency medicine, and so that's what trauma is. And there was a beautiful study where they collected the urine on people who'd been in serious trauma, like a bad car wreck, and the level of epinephrine in the urine, the first urine, the level of epinephrine when people first presented to the hospital. And these are severe trauma cases. The level of epinephrine when people first presented to the hospital pretty much determined whether or not the person ever developed PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So there's some very strong evidence that PTSD comes from epinephrine. So the fact that you're out buying opioids to not get sick, there may be a component that was out of your control. There may have been a component that was out of your control. Okay, because if you experienced adrenaline toxicity or you experienced loss of control of your internal organs, the autonomic dysfunction, and you experienced adrenaline toxicity, and part of that adrenaline toxicity was epinephrine toxicity, that's going to have a behavioral effect in that it's going to tell your brain, don't ever go into withdrawal again. Don't ever go into withdrawal again. Do whatever you got to do, but don't ever go into withdrawal again. You got to steal stuff. You got to steal money from your family. You got to whatever you got to do. Get the opioid, steal the opioid, whatever you got to do. Okay, whatever you got to do, do it. Okay, because we're not going to stick the butter knife in the electrical outlet a second time. We're not going to step on the yellow jacket nest a second time. We're not going to go back into opioid withdrawal. You do whatever you got to do. That's really not free will. That's not you making a decision to do that. So all these people that are in jail and prison for stuff they did while they were trying to get out of withdrawal, was it really free will? I mean, I even look at the case with Alex Murdaugh. I'm open to the concept that some of what he did may have been because of some of the severe toxicity he had from the adrenalines. Anyway, I'm a little long today. My apologies. We'll hold here for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. Please post this podcast on your social media and everybody else's social media. If you need access to buprenorphine and you're in one of the states that we serve, we can help you. Other than that, please let me hear from you. I do read every email, and we will be back tomorrow at 2:30. Thank you.